Toast popped from the toaster. A load of bedsheets spun slowly in the dryer. My husband left early for work, just like every weekday. The house fell quiet once again. I poured myself a cup of coffee and stood by the kitchen counter, staring out the window at the wet pavement outside. Everything looked normal. Everything felt normal. But beneath the surface, something had changed. Because even hours later, I could still feel the memory of that moment lingering on my skin. And I knew deep down that whatever had started that night wasn't truly over. It was only the beginning. Followed by footsteps. The unmistakable click of our front gate. My entire body froze. The spell shattered instantly. Jonah stepped back first, his expression shifting back into something calm and unreadable. Caleb moved away quickly, running a hand through his damp hair, as if trying to shake away the moment. None of us spoke. Within seconds, the room returned to normal, at least on the surface. By the time the front door opened, I had already adjusted my robe and turned back toward the laundry basket. Jonah disappeared quietly down the hallway. Caleb walked toward the breaker box, pretending to inspect the electricity. My husband stepped inside moments later, rainwater dripping from his coat. He greeted me with a quick kiss on the cheek, like he always did. "Power's out?" he asked casually. I nodded. "Looks like it," I said, forcing a calm smile. And just like that, life continued exactly as it always had. At least from the outside. The next morning looked perfectly ordinary. Sunlight filtered through the kitchen window. Scrambled eggs cooked in the pan. They stepped inside, shaking off the rain, laughing quietly about the storm. And then the laughter faded. Because suddenly, the room felt different. I can't remember who moved first. I can't even remember the exact moment when the distance between us disappeared. All I remember is the realization that I wasn't stopping it. For years, I had lived inside a life that felt predictable and safe. But safe can sometimes feel the same as empty. And in that quiet laundry room, surrounded by the hum of machines and the scent of fresh soap, something long buried inside me stirred awake. The dryer stopped spinning with a soft click. The room fell into silence. My breathing felt louder than the storm outside. I trembled slightly, not out of fear, but because I hadn't felt warmth like this in years. For so long, I had felt like a supporting character in someone else's routine. But in that moment, I felt present. Alive. "This doesn't mean anything," I whispered quietly to myself, almost like a promise. But even as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure if I believed them. Caleb and Jonah didn't rush. There was no competition between them, no urgency. Instead, there was an understanding. An unspoken agreement that whatever was happening in that moment belonged to all three of us equally. And I allowed it to continue. Because deep down, I wanted to know what it felt like to be noticed again. To be desired. To feel like more than just someone keeping a house running smoothly. Then suddenly, the sound of a car door outside. Sometimes just to escape the quiet of his own apartment. Caleb had always treated me with a kind of gentle attention that was easy to overlook, but impossible to forget. He listened when I spoke, even when the things I said weren't particularly important. The other man was Jonah. Jonah had been Caleb's closest friend since their college days. He was different, quieter, more reserved. There was something about him that made people curious but also slightly cautious. His eyes always seemed to be searching for something deeper in every room he walked into. And sometimes, when he looked at me, it felt like he was asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. Over the past few months, both of them had begun showing up more frequently. At first, it seemed like coincidence. Then it started to feel like routine. Eventually, it became something else entirely. Something neither of us talked about. But something all three of us could feel. They never looked at me the way the rest of the world did. They never looked at me like I was fading quietly into the background. That night, the storm arrived suddenly. Wind rattled the windows. Rain pounded against the roof with a steady rhythm that echoed throughout the house. And then the power went out. Just like that. My husband was away on another business trip. Delayed flights meant he wouldn't be home until later than expected. I was in the laundry room folding towels when the knocking started. At first it was soft, then louder. When I opened the door, both Caleb and Jonah were standing there, soaked from the rain. Their clothes clung to them. water dripping onto the porch. I hadn't expected to see them together. But something about the moment felt strangely inevitable. Maybe far longer than I had. For years, I had convinced myself that the part of me capable of wanting more had disappeared. I told myself that desire was something that belonged to a younger version of me. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was much simpler. I hadn't forgotten. I had buried it. I buried it every evening when I folded my husband's shirts and stacked them neatly in his drawer. I buried it during quiet dinners where the only sounds were the clinking of forks against plates and the television murmuring softly in the background. I buried it whenever I found myself lingering in the laundry room just a little longer than necessary, simply to avoid walking upstairs into a bedroom that felt colder with each passing year. This moment wasn't planned. I had never sat around imagining a night like this. I never pictured two men standing this close, their presence filling the empty spaces I had grown so used to ignoring. But when they reached toward me, when the distance between us disappeared, something inside me opened instead of closing. And I didn't stop it. I'm 38 years old. For 12 years, I have been someone's wife. I'm the kind of woman who remembers birthdays without reminders. The kind who knows exactly how my husband likes his coffee in the morning. 2 sugars, a splash of milk, stirred exactly the same way every day. I'm the woman who quietly presses his shirts, keeps the house organized, and remembers the small details that make a life run smoothly. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like someone who was seen. Really seen. The first man standing near me that night was Caleb. He's my husband's cousin, a few years younger than me. Life had not been especially kind to him lately. His marriage ended early, long before anyone expected it to. Since then he had been visiting more often, sometimes to help fix things around the house. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Your support helps us share more powerful and unforgettable stories with you. Today's story is about silence, temptation, and the fragile line between loyalty and longing. They didn't ask for permission. It happened so quietly, so naturally, that for a moment it felt like time itself had slowed down just to watch what would happen next. One of them stepped closer behind me. I could feel the warmth of his breath near my shoulder as the soft fabric of my robe shifted slightly with my movement. His hand hovered near my waist for a moment, as if giving me time. Time to pull away, time to say something, time to stop everything before it even began. But I didn't move. The other stood directly in front of me. His eyes met mine in the dim light of the laundry room. There was something unspoken in that look, something challenging, something questioning. Was I going to step back? Or was I going to stay? The laundry room was dim, illuminated only by a weak, flickering bulb above us. The dryer hummed softly in the background, its steady vibration filling the silence between our breaths. The scent of fresh detergent lingered in the air. Clean cotton, soap powder, and beneath it all, the faint trace of cologne. For hands rested gently at my sides. For a moment none of us spoke. I didn't push them away. I didn't protest. Instead, I leaned back slightly, letting the warm metal of the dryer press against my spine. My heart beat louder with every passing second, and the tension in that small room grew thicker than the humid air. They moved slowly, carefully, like people approaching something delicate, something they had imagined many times before but never truly expected to happen. And maybe they had imagined it,